founding members of the Magic Castle in Hollywood. And he's the greatest close-up magician I've ever seen in my life. And that's why, everything that he did, he was just wicked dangerous. But he started when he was 6 years old at the Schubert Museum in New York City. He lived in New Jersey, and he would take the trains into town. And because he made so much money, his mother really never asked him what he was doing and where he got it. He used to sell horn nuts, Chinese horn nuts. It's hilarious. You'd have to see it to believe it. But it was a scam. It was a scheme. So from the time he was very young, and he's the rarest of the rare. He is an Scottish Jew. That whole thing about the Rose Castle, Rosamond, Scotland being the place, it's absolutely incredible. Who's the patron saint of Welsh miners? Joseph of Arimathea, the same Joseph of Arimathea that gave his tomb to Christ. And there's a reason the 10 mines, and Joseph of Arimathea was the heir, generation after generation after generation, of the kings that owned the fleet that brought the gold to Solomon from Solomon's mines. See? And they had such a presence among the Celtic people, see, that Israelite influence all over that part of the world because of the tin. You see? And of course they used tin to make steel and other alloys and so on and so forth. And that's how the whole deal, the legend of Arthur. Arthur became king. Why? He drew the sword from the stone. What that really means is he was able to smelt steel from ore. Take the rocks, turn them in. And who was his best friend? Merlin, the magician, the alchemist, the one who, basically showed him that process. Because when you had the first swords in the Copper Age, then you had bronze swords that could cut a copper sword in half. Then you had iron swords, the Iron Age. The iron sword could cut the bronze sword in half. And that's how the dominance played out. Finally, with steel, you see, they could cut the iron sword in half and make all kinds of stuff. And that's why King Arthur was a historic character. And he began to have his hegemony all over Western Europe and over all. He was the first king of all England. Before that, there were lots of little kings and stuff like that. Then came the Roman Empire. And when the Roman Empire faded, that was King Arthur's time. And King Arthur was able to make steel swords, lance points. As a matter of fact, that's what the name Priddy is all about. The family name. Family history. Priddy is a place, it's a name place, and the family name comes from the Knight of the Round Table that made steel spear points. That was his craft. And that's why he became a knight of the Round Table. Wow. So all of that, is as they say, connected.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, I'll bet.
Let's see here.
Oh.
Now this is a horary, which means that is the position of the sun and the moon and the stars right now.
Oh, right.
And these lines are called aspects. And there are significant aspects like squares, trines. Trine is a 120-degree aspect. Excuse me. Hello? Yes, ma'am. Oh! Maybe I need to come by today. No, I've still got... Yes, ma'am. You're absolutely right. Well, I came by on Monday, but you guys were gone to a funeral. And then, I could tell you the story of what has happened to me, but it would take a week. So, you don't want to hear it? You just want me to bring you the $100? All right, I do, and it's yours, and I haven't spent it. So, yeah, I'll bring it right to you. Thanks for calling, Maria. Bye. So, oppositions, and there are some that are considered to be like adversarial, and there are some that are considered to be harmonious. So, a sextile is 60 degrees, a trine is 120 degrees, and these are soft aspects. Hard aspects are oppositions and squares and quincunxes that are, 50 degrees, 90 degrees, etc. So I'll show you, like, let's say, for example, I opened my name.
These are all people that you've set it up for and
Done
then...
charts for you.
Huh?
I've done these charts for them.
Oh, I see.
Because I used to, want to kind of, not really be in this business, but these are all people that have had occasion to want to know what they're about, why they do things and stuff like that. And so this is really good if somebody is just wants to get a challenge to them about who they are and so on and so forth. Now this is Sun trine Moon. This is very, very harmonious aspect. See. And this aspect is very powerful in this horoscope. You can see the thermometer there of how powerful it is. It's almost 100%. And that's because, and it dominates many areas of your life. Because it's a good aspect between these two planets, you can expect the positive consequences to be strong and very creative, and the negative consequences to be minimal. As the moon waxes and wanes, it goes through different phases, showing its relationship to the sun. Each phase has a specific effect on personal character. At the new moon, or conjunction between the sun and the moon, there is a strong self-awareness, but some frustrations as regards getting on in life. Past bonds have a strong hold on the personal nature and will often stand in the way of progress. In relationships, the conjunction can make it difficult to gauge one's effect on the partner. And although there's a strong sensitivity, it is felt very subjectively. Now, often, the bond of the parents is rather unique with this aspect. This is so true. This is absolutely. And the family life is characterized by an insular self-sufficiency. This is absolutely true. Every person in our family was expected to be completely self-sufficient. My dad, and it has to do, and there's stuff in here about the fact that the stepfather and all of that kind of stuff is in this chart. The father may exhibit a strong emotional or caring nature, and the mother may well have a strong independent characteristic. The full moon or opposition, on the other hand, gives almost too much objectivity, and emotional interactions in relationships are quite dominant. There's a tendency to project behavior and attitudes on the partner, which in reality belong to oneself. You don't realize what a revelation this was to me, because I am so subject to the course of the moon. And I guarantee you, man, if I was a woman, and I recommend this for every woman I know thyself. Know where the moon is in its cycle, what it does and where it is and what it means. Be aware where it is. I mean, because women are connected to this 29-day cycle. So know where it is. This is a nice little app.
I think I know where it is.
You know where the moon is?
Right there.
Yeah.
Am I right?
And it tells how many days, all of this kind of stuff. But the point of it is that because of this aspect, the sun is identity. And because of the sun trine moon, and the fact that this aspect is in opposition to Mars. And also, see, here's Mars, which is in a square, not only with Venus. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And a square is a very difficult relationship. The main thing about, the main characteristic, I begin to encapsulate concepts into these sounds, then you cannot think without words. And so the more elaborate your understanding of words and their root connections and everything like that, it's easier to think. And I wanted to tell you, every child is a genius. Genius is a process. It's not a quality. It's a process. As if it's ongoing, and that's what it is. I'm just so childish. I mean, really. And I mean, that's it. And the legitimacy of this, I have no question for what it is, which is a language, a vocabulary, and a syntax that are designed for people to have intelligent conversation, meaningful, substantive is what I mean by that. Meaningful, substantive conversations about personality and character. Personality and character. Now, I think I may have told you that when I constructed the Illuminati medallion, that those three sets of triplets and art, and I said the path from truth to art, that is life. That is the arc of life. From truth to art, what you do, artificial. Art is the root word of artifact. You find something under the sands and stuff, it's not natural. It was made by human hands. Artificial. That it was made by human hands. And so, from truth, freedom, and justice, because nothing can happen that's real without truth. And you have to be free to seek the truth and find the truth. And there's no justice without truth and freedom. And in the center triplet is character, courage, and charity. See, charity is selfless love, or Christ-like love, agape love. And the next triplet has love, the romantic love. So I have character, courage, and charity, then love, beauty, inspiration, and then art. And all of those words are deeply, deeply meaningful. I didn't just pick them capriciously. I picked them for a reason, and I put courage in the middle. Courage is in the very heart of it because courage means heart. Cor. It's French, from the Latin, meaning heart. Courage is heart. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, is heart of the lion. Coeur de Leon, that kind of stuff. And so charity and character are intimately related because they're the same root word. C-H-A-R in character is the same as the C-H-R in charity. Charity, char, that's what it is. Char is that Christ-like love. And your character is Christ-like love in action. Character, see? And in order to evince character from charity in this world, it takes courage, the heart of it. That's at the heart of it. And then love, romantic love. Beauty, inspiration. Now, inspiration is a real interesting word too. When somebody says like, oh, I invented that, they think they created it out of nothing. But the word itself was never coined to mean that at all. What it means is the same as develop, discover, invention, Because if you develop something, I developed that. If you develop something, you've simply taken it out of the envelope. Develop it. You take it out of the envelope, meaning it was already there. Discover. I discovered that. Well, all you did was take the cover off. It was there, under the cover. See? Same with invent and inspire mean almost exactly the same thing. What does vent mean? When you go into a hospital and they ventilate the patient, they make you breathe, and you respire. What does respire mean? Breathe, right? Expire, breathe your last. Breathe out, you don't breathe in. But inspire actually means to breathe in. And when you think about it, invent means exactly the same thing, to breathe it in. And in Scripture it says, all Scripture is what? God breathed. The breath of life. That's what it is. So that's why I picked those words. That's how the medallion, and the arc from truth to life, that's how it all came to pass. See? And that's why I grouped those words together. And that's why I grouped charity, which is pure love, next to love, which is romantic love, and all of that kind of stuff. That's how it came about. So, and I wasn't in doubt. I think in my environment, with my parents, my grandparents, and stuff like that, made this. I'm just so glad that I had that exposure to free thinkers, who encouraged this independence. That's what I'm saying, man. How is this so specifically true? Now, I realize it's not just to me, but the fact of it is that the family encouraged this insular self-sufficiency. And every one of us was hermetically sealed as a person. And I get to that, when I complain about corporations being made persons under the law. Because the word itself, person, has a meaning that is completely disregarded. That's what Frankenstein's monster. Mary Shelley was describing corporations in that. Frankenstein's monster is an allegorical corporation, has no soul, you see, and it lives forever. That's one big advantage corporations have over ordinary human beings, is that they don't die. So their accumulation continues, whereas we're taxed to death, and our estates are taxed, where now you can't inherit anything. You've got to sell what you inherit just to pay the taxes on it. Unless you get to a big deal. And that's what the big families, the big gigantic financial families like the Queen of England and those kind of people get into a category where they simply continue to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. And their hope is, their desire is, their objective is to accumulate all of earth and everybody in it with life and death authority and power over it. That's what they want. So I tell you what, I really recommend this as an instrument of self-discovery, of self-inspection, self-analysis. You know what I'm saying? And once you get the vocabulary of personality and character, then you can think about it in meaningful ways and make discoveries about yourself and about other people and about everything. You know what I'm saying? That is a wonderful, intimate connection and correspondence with the music of the spheres, of everything wheeling out in space. We're all part of it. We're really all part of it. So when the sun and moon have a harmonious relationship to each other through the trine or sextile aspect, there is much greater ease in expressing feelings and ascertaining one's effect on others. Whatever the aspect, you will have a very strong emotional nature and feel an enormous pull from the past. You will have well-developed instincts and a talent for delving into the dark realms of the unconscious, which I certainly do. Generally speaking, with all aspects between the sun and the moon, it pays to exert the influence of the will on your emotion. Something I have done since I was a kid, and schooled and taught and disciplined to do exactly that, was to overcome my emotions with thought. With what I think, and that's the only way that you can govern and regulate your emotions, is through principle, knowing what the principles are. You see what I'm saying? And adhering to a set of principles, which are more or less eternal. You know how I actually came to religion? Through the law. Through the law. I was raised as more or less an agnostic, or pretty much an atheist, and, a little scientist and everything like that. But I became so enamored with the law and with language and stuff early on, it was just a natural thing. I had an interest in it. And by and coming to understand the root of law was what gave me the glimmering of the authority of the cause of all causes. In other words, how did it all come to be? In order. It's all orderly. It seems to be chaotic, but that's the purpose of principle, is to draw order out of chaos, in the midst of chaos. See? Now, when I was a kid, I could not live in clutter. And I told you, didn't I tell you, at 11 years old, I had these ulcers. Horrible, horrible ulcers. I'm eaten alive with them. And how I came to overcome that was one night, I fell asleep. I'd been awake for days. My dad was home. I mean, things were in a turmoil and stuff. And I was so tired that I could not get up. I could not actually make my body move. And that was a great defeat. That was a great defeat. To realize that there was a limit to my will, that I could not overpower myself beyond a certain point of exhaustion. Because when I laid down in the bed, I saw underneath my little lab table, I had a chemistry lab table and a biological lab table where I dissected fish. And really funny for someone as prissy as I was about neatness, to dissect everything I could find, no matter, fish, roadkill, and stuff like this. I was just fascinated by it, like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh.
But anyway, I saw this dust bunny under my bed, and I couldn't tolerate it. I had spent days rearranging my books, rearranging my pictures, rearranging my room, obsessively, because children of alcoholics have no control over their lives. So they take control over whatever they've got control of. That's why you find so many kids cutting themselves. They want to be in control of the pain, and they want to be in control of the injury. They don't want to be subject to capricious harm and injury and damage all the time. They want to be in charge. They need to be in charge. But they don't have a mechanism to take charge of themselves. So they exercise, in futility, they exercise the control they have, and they squander their personal power in self-damage, self-injury. That's why those kinds of things are perpetuating. That's why the sins of the fathers are visited on the sons under the 7th generation, is because that kind of stuff comes by osmosis. And unless it's arrested, unless it's understood, unless it can be consciously comprehended, it can't be commanded. You can't have any authority over yourself. And that's why this is such a great tool. There are others. There are lots of other really great tools. But this one for me really resonated for me because what the hell? I was already 40 some odd years old before I found this resource. And part of the reason that I never found it was because I had always repudiated it. I'd always rejected it, and rightfully so, for the reasons that I rejected it. You see, because it was not this instrument. To me, it's not the way I understood it. And I probably would not have understood it if I had somehow become enamored of it,
Well, is it not,
capriciously.
for most people, in conflict with biblical teachings?
Well, I think, sure. I mean, I think a lot of people say that whatever you do, like casting bones or whatever, in order to tell the future. And that's what I'm saying. That's not what this is about. It is not about telling what the future is. It is simply identifying, like any good general, the terrain, your resources, your logistical support, the lay of the land, and, what's going on with your enemies and all of that kind of stuff. A good general knows what's going on.
Strengths and weaknesses?
That's right, strengths and weaknesses, and that's what this is about. And all I'm saying is, here, once again, you could almost do as much giving someone a totally bullshit chart. No, really.
I understand.
See, because you go through this systematically, saying, this is what it means, is that you have well-developed instincts and talents for delving into the dark realms of the unconscious, and you go, well, not really. Well, then you say, well, what is it? And this, what are your instincts and talents? I mean, in other words, if not, then what? See, so you use that language, you use that structure, you use that syntax, use that understanding, and then you can discover. It's self-discovery. You say, oh yeah, well, you know what? I never thought about that. I didn't realize that. You know what? And frankly, a lot of the, my early life were spent believing that I was one way, when in fact, I really wasn't. I've always thought that I absolutely had no emotion. And in a way, I did regulate myself. My heart was always ruled by my head. Always. See, for good or evil. See what I'm saying? I just overcame myself. And later on I realized, why in the world was I struggling against what turned out to be what I consider the greatest meaningful dimension of my life, which is the, artistic, creative, and things like, and enjoyment of art is in a way creative. It really is, because it opens the door, it opens the floodgates to your own creativity, your own purpose, discovering the purpose, the reason, that you even exist. I see so many people in despair. I don't want to live. I don't want to live in this world. And they don't want to experience their pain. So they take all kinds of pills and they blow their brains out with all kinds of substances in order to numb themselves. Voluntarily turning themselves into zombies. While they are yet alive, they're already dead, dragging their rotting corpses around. For what reason? You see, they have made themselves for no purpose, and that's what does it. There are a lot of people who can't speak, who we consider, retarded and all of this kind of stuff, who are actually more fully formed as human beings, as spiritual beings, as emotional, feeling, and caring beings than most ordinary people. Well, let me level. Boy, is that so true! And discovering it was so powerful. And here it is. It can manifest as stubborn confrontation in situations which threaten the ego or sense of emotional security. Wow! God! Key to my life it was to read this. When I first read this, I'm telling you what, I was overwhelmed by the accuracy of it. Now somehow there is a correspondence between this array of the sun and the moon and the stars when I was born. And I recognize it. And listen to this, boy, I'm telling you what. You can portray the essence of masculinity or dynamism in your nature, probably as a result of hard-won battles at key points in your life. And man, this may mean that you're pushy or aggressive in your social relationships. I had, my second wife told me about shit. She was right. It was absolutely incredible. With little regard for opposition, though you may try to choose a life in which you shun confrontation. Also, the story of my life. Trying to disguise myself as no one of consequence. Don't do it. I'm not here to bother you. Don't bother me. But it's impossible. I mean, people magnetize on. It's just incredible. Coming to terms with the power of sexuality, its pleasures, and obsessive quality is a major life challenge. Wow. Mars and Scorpio rising, all of that stuff, all of that lusty predisposition, obsession and everything, when I'm just a prissy little virgin. And there it is. You see what I'm saying? The Virgo and Scorpio, wow. Dealing with conflicts is also a lifelong dilemma for you, because you're always in a dilemma. As you are denied the opportunity of indulging your weaknesses and are forced to seek a position of strength in your dealings with others, but also in dealing with your own weaknesses. You see, denied the opportunity of indulging your weaknesses, which is what I would love to do. But I just can't do it because I see my own destruction immediately following. Not by enemies, although the enemies will converge like vultures on a carcass. But you're the one who made the carcass by indulging your own weaknesses. See, and so that's why I used to have this hard-boiled shell that was impenetrable and no one could touch me. I remember events in my life, like where I stood on the porch and told my first wife that I was leaving her. Oh my God. What a colossal corruption of principle. Wasn't even what I wanted to do. But I overcame it. You know what I'm saying? I did not break down, and I caused it to happen. Actually, it was the operation of the very same thing that caused me to take my mother when I was 14 years old and drive my mother in a car because she couldn't drive, to go to the Air Force base where my dad was hiding out and force the confrontation that ended their marriage. Sat there in the NCO bar and watched him consume pitcher after pitcher after pitcher of beer until he had drunk enough courage to go out and tell my mother that he was no good for her, which he wasn't. Not that he wasn't a good man, but he was certainly no good for my mother. You know, there was all kinds of stuff going on that she suspected that really was going on. You know what I mean? But I forced it to happen on that day. Right now, we're going now. Went out and got the cars, made my mother get in the car.
At what age were you?
14 years old. 14.
And this was your stepfather?
Although I did not know
You did
that.
not know that.
I thought he was my biological father. I never knew I was adopted until I graduated from high school.
And I don't recall, adopted by both parents, or your mother was your biological
My
mother?
biological
Okay.
mother. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I need to write a book.
Well, yeah.
Stanley! No wonder you're such a loving, caring guy. See,
How do you know I'm a loving, caring guy?
I've known you for years.
Who's that laughing?
Sam.
Well, I have stories.
But here, well, now let's just see. But now, see, that barely puts you into Taurus. What this is, your ascendant is in Taurus. Okay? And if we change the time to 4 o'clock, it would just put you more in the center of Taurus, is all. I'll show you what I'm saying. If I edit a name, and we change this to 16, 4 o'clock, you'll see what it does. You see, all it did was put you kind of on the other side of Taurus.
Yeah, so if we're off by an hour or two, it matters
even,
little.
Even a half hour. If we split the difference at 3:30, you would probably be right in the center of Taurus. And it's really, but to see it in a way, if we take the sun, all right, the sun is in Sagittarius. It's in the 7th house, and the 7th house is connected with social relationships, daily contact with other people on the social level. Whereas the 1st house represents the self, the 7th represents others. Planets here show, to me, man, this is certainly my perception of you. You know, helping other people and stuff like that. You're a good-hearted man. So the sun, and what I wanted to show you was like the sun in conjunction. Now here's the aspects right here. It's in conjunction with the moon, and it's in conjunction with Venus, and sextile with Neptune. So we take the sun as conjunction with the moon, medium strength, you know, because the aspect is some 8 degrees, or 6 degrees. 2 energies are unified, 2 planets represent the basic building blocks of character. Your success will very much depend on the nature of the aspect between the sun and the moon, which yours is a conjunction, very powerful. Harmonious contacts between the sun and the moon indicate a talent for nurturing and strengthening others through the capacity to understand them, as well as giving a wealth of creative talents in many areas. So, let's see here. Emotional conflict, let's see here. Often the problem will lie in environmental instability, but